Welcome everybody to Practical Psychology Podcast, episode 31. I am one of the co-hosts, Joseph Wong. Today we are very happy to have Wish, a registered psychotherapist qualifying in Toronto. Wish originally grew up in South India. She has been working for IT industry for over 8 years, and Wish is very passionate about mental health and psychotherapy, particularly in addictions, dopamine, DBT, CBT, and psychodynamic. Today, Wish will join us to talk about the dopamine regulation and also addictions. Thank you, Wish. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for your wonderful introduction. I'm very excited to start this podcast with you. Yeah.
Hey, so Wish,
Yeah.
why dopamine regulations and addictions? Tell me more. Because most people don't talk about these two niche topics.
Yes, absolutely. So, Joseph, have you heard about the pain-pleasure balance?
Tell the viewer first, the pain pleasure balance.
Right. So, pain-pleasure balance is essentially that the brain of ours, it does not like to stay in pain or pleasure for too long. So, this was a very interesting research that they did. It is in the book called Dopamine Nation by Anna Lembeck. So she mentioned that when we tend to do more of pleasure oriented behaviors, right? Like intense pleasure, for example, substance use or doom scrolling is also an example. It gives you micro spikes of pleasure. So when those kind of behaviors we tend to do and there is a spike in pleasure, the brain tries to balance that spike by going downwards in dopamine and giving you some sort of pain. It can be like irritability or anxiety or cravings for more pleasure. So these are the pain oriented sensations that the brain tries to balance the pleasure with. So that the brain always tries to balance these two things, right? So even if you put in more pain to it, like more exercise, the good kind of pain, right? Exercise or cold exposure, or completing your goals or tasks, right? These are the pain that you deliberately put on yourself. So the brain tries to balance it with pleasure. You feel more satisfied. There's more content in what you do, right, in your career or in your day-to-day living. So this is how the pain pleasure balance is maintained in the brain. And it is a very interesting topic if you think about it, right? So we get these pleasure micro spikes throughout our day, right? Sugar, it causes a spike in pleasure, like a bowl of ice cream. It is so tempting to have. You're so happy to do that, right? So that is a little bit of out of balance that happens when you do that, and you crave for it for some days. There is some kind of irritability also that's associated with it, right? So what I'm trying to say is, um, not all pleasure related activities are dopamine addictive behaviors, right? We as human beings, we do require connection, we do require some reward, right? When we are in our day-to-day activities, right, we do want to experience
Mhm.
some pleasure, but it becomes a disbalance, it becomes an imbalance when it is chronically done, when there is some kind of nervous system dysregulation or there is some trauma that's happened and you're chronically chasing these pleasure rewards, right? So that is the pain pleasure balance that I wanted to speak about, which is associated with dopamine regulation.
Which this is very interesting for this idea because it looks like you're talking about the pain pleasure is like a box.
Hmm.
And then we can further define a line almost in a matrix about the good pain, maybe the not so good pain,
Right.
the healthy pleasure and the unhealthy pleasure. You
Mm.
mentioned about some of the doom scrolling, it's like micro spike. compared to, so in a way we can have a boxer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So there is, like you mentioned, right? Healthy pleasure, unhealthy pleasure, right? And like I said, sometimes it's okay to have a bowl of ice cream, right? It's okay to watch a TV show or doom scroll, but it becomes a problem when you do that as an escapism from what
Mm,
you need to face, like in day-to-day life, right? So an example that how the brain manages pain, it balances the pain is, for example, when you doom scroll for a long time, right? There's a mental exhaustion that happens after it. Like you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like washing the dishes, or you're just on the couch. It's
okay.
also called bed rotting in the social media, that you're just on the phone doom scrolling. So that is one of the ways that the brain is trying to balance the pain and pleasure that's happening.
Yes, because for doom scrolling here, a lot of time people can doom scroll for hours. The
Yeah.
time just flies
Mm-hmm.
without realizing
Yeah, absolutely. We get into this kind of trance when that is happening, right? If you've noticed, even when you're watching a really good TV show, or if it's like a really thrilling kind of TV show, you get into this loop that you want it more and more. So that's become like that becomes like a craving for the dopamine hit that you're getting from that,
it.
right?
So like binge watching Netflix.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Binge watching. Yeah. And not only that, Joseph, it's so interesting with the dopamine regulation, right? When you ruminate, when you have some kind of thought process going on and you're not able to solve it, for example, yeah,
Mm,
for example, right? I had a fight with someone who's very close to me, right? For example,
okay.
and I start to ruminate about it. What will I do next time? What am I going to do? What happened? What I should have said this, I should have done this, right? When that happens, your brain is actually trying to solve the problem that happened for getting a dopamine spike.
Mm,
So whenever you solve a problem, right, you get a small spike of dopamine. So
mm,
when you are chronically dysregulated with dopamine, right, because of all these addictive behaviors that we do, if there is rumination that is happening, it's usually because your brain is trying to get a dopamine hit and you're low and deficient on it.
mm. Oh, that's very interesting because first we talk about the sort of the matrix,
Mm.
the pleasure and pain, the healthy, unhealthy pleasure, healthy and unhealthy pain. And then
Right.
now we talk about rumination because people are worrying about their worry without resolving the problems
Mm.
productively. And that
Yes.
can cause pain.
Exactly, exactly. That comes into the matrix where it is, your brain is trying to balance the
Mm,
pain when there is a lot of pleasure that's not balanced.
okay, I
Right?
see. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so interesting, right? There are so many people who are just ruminating over problems, trying to find a solution, and some of the problems are not even solvable because they are in the future, and
Mm,
that is what anxiety is as well, right?
okay, yeah, yeah, that's very interesting because which one of the work or tools in counseling and psychology is not just to know as a concept, but practice living in the moment.
Hmm.
Practice delaying worry about the future if it is unnecessary.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and it is so important to have these kind of awareness, and that is why it is so wonderful to teach clients these small things which are so important in our day-to-day life, right? If it was for me, this kind of education would be in schools because it is
Mm,
it is so important as a human being to know these things,
okay.
right?
And we share this concept is amazing, and I want to ask two questions right away.
Hmm.
My first question is How do a person know they are out of balance in
Mhm.
this matrix?
Yeah. Dopamine regulation comes with a lot of factors, right? So the things that are good for dopamine production and for, regulation are sleep. Sleep is a really good factor, important factor to
Mm,
regulate your dopamine. Second one is nutrition. So,
mhm,
healthy food which is rich in protein, right?
mm,
So they will help in tyrosine. Tyrosine is an amino acid in protein
mm,
that helps in dopamine regulation, right? It is seen in protein-rich foods, right? Lean meats, things
yeah,
like
mhm,
that. So nutrition is the second thing. The third thing would be exercise. That's
mhm,
healthy dopamine, right? And all you have to look at all of these factors and your lifestyle as well. And you have
mm,
to be aware of, are you having any kind of PTSD from any kind of
mm,
trauma? Right?
mm,
Or are you neurodivergent? Right? So the
mm,
research has shown that a neurodivergence is also a dopamine regulation problem,
yeah.
right? Dopamine dysregulation can mimic neurodivergence.
Okay, yeah. So it's good. We have a list here. If people are off
Yeah,
balance, some of the causes are
yeah,
sleep
yeah,
and exercise, diet,
yeah.
lifestyle,
Mhm.
any unresolved trauma or
Yes.
neurodivergence.
Yes, exactly. So, when you asked me that, how are people aware if they are in the healthy matrix or the unhealthy one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, one of the things that you can be aware of is how your day-to-day living is affected.
Okay.
You know, are you able to complete your task? Are you able to do your mundane task, like washing vessels, cleaning your house, your hygiene, all these not so important tasks that we think about, right? Are you able to complete them? Right? Do you have a sense of satisfaction when you do that? So all these factors you can really pinpoint if there is a dysregulation in dopamine or not. Also, like activities like how much do you use your phone for doom scrolling, right? And how much do you play video games? Video game is also a really good, big contributor for dysregulation of dopamine because it's instant reward, instant pleasure, right? And also substance use, right? Substance use gives you high amounts of dopamine in very short time and the brain is not able to balance it, so it gives you a lot of pain in terms of cravings
Okay.
and irritability, anxiety, depression, so many things with substance use. And that is why it is so hard to break the cycle of addiction, right?
Mm,
Because nothing gives you that happiness except for that because it has changed the baseline so high that washing vessels or completing your homework or project does not meet it.
yeah.
So it gets like really hard to break the addiction loop with dopamine. Yeah.
So, which in a way, when you're saying this, it will benefit a lot of people to have some sort of a lifestyle or
Hmm.
well-being checklist,
Yes,
so
yes,
they can check out all these items to know uh, how well they're doing here,
hmm,
something they need to minor edit, TLC, and all
yes.
that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a really good question, Joseph, because if you do some maintenance activities, right? Think of yourself as, suppose, you have a really good breed of dog or cat. You know, how we take care of it. We give them like really nutritious food. We take them to exercise. Of course, you have to love your pet to do all of that. So, similarly, you take care of yourself like a high maintenance human being. You
Yes.
sleep on time, you wake up at the same time to maintain your circadian rhythm, that helps in dopamine regulation. You get some sunlight, go exercise, like you walk your dog, right? You go for a walk, just go exercise, right? And eat nutritious protein rich food for dopamine,
Mm,
right? and and try to offload your stress through exercise or healthy
mm, mm,
behaviors, and not by escaping it by playing video games. I know it's very easier said than done, and that is why it is so important. If you find yourself going into addictive behaviors like substance use, especially substance use, it's really hard to break the cycle. So I would suggest, if that becomes something of your routine, right, to ask for help. People like you and me can definitely help in breaking that cycle and helping you maintain your day-to-day activities.
mm. It's interesting here, which because you mentioned about the checklist, the self-monitoring and all that. And one of the biggest challenge for most people, including myself, is we are already so busy doing our own thing. We need an extra person to keep us accountable and
Yeah.
all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true. That is true. So, as human beings, we are not perfect, of course, right? We
Mm,
sometimes we lack awareness. Sometimes,
mm,
we try to
yeah,
take the easy route. We do not want to exercise all the time,
yeah.
maybe, right? And sometimes it is so easy to escape than to face
Mhm.
something that's hard. So yeah, we do need people who are keeping us accountable, and one of the ways to do that is with family or friends, of course. But if that's not possible, to reach out for help for a counselor who can help you do that with logbooks or scheduling of your day-to-day
Mm.
activities.
Yeah, this idea here is very important here, which because in the clinical setting, we see a lot of couple counseling clients. For example, maybe one of the spouse might be doom scrolling, playing video games,
Mm,
and sleep really late,
mm,
and then causing issues in the marriage or relationships.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, people try to self-monitor, but
Mm,
sometimes they will reach a point to talk to a professional to keep them accountable.
yeah.
Because most people cannot keep accountable, not because of personal fault, but people like even myself is just too busy.
Right, right, right. Yeah, it's a really good idea that you have that awareness to ask
Mhm.
for help, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes even asking for help can be difficult for some
yeah.
people. And yeah, we really need to spread awareness about this so that, who are having
Mm.
difficulty asking for help also can maybe take a moment to understand that, oh, help is available for these kind of thoughts or these kind of behaviors that I'm doing.
It's interesting here because when we talk about mental health here, obviously mental health is for all spectrum
Mm.
to reduce, resolve mental health disorders on
Mm-hmm.
one spectrum. On
Mm-hmm.
the other side is for sports psychology, improving exam scores or anything.
Right.
So in a way, seeking help itself is not entirely an accurate word now that we think about it. It
Yeah,
could be more
absolutely.
appropriate to be professional consulting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And mental health is such a misunderstood um, area of life, but there's a lot of
Yes.
awareness coming up now. But I believe that as human beings we do need
Yeah. Yes.
counselors to talk to on a regular
Yeah.
basis,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
we as counselors, we have done our research, thorough research on how people,
Mhm.
how efficiently we can live our lives
Mhm.
as we being like emotional beings and social
Mhm.
creatures. We can definitely help them live like a more efficient way of of
Mhm.
life, because you can definitely get lost in your career or be so busy that the important aspects are being overlooked. for you,
Yes.
right? So counselors, yeah, they have to, people have to have like a close relationship with counselors.
Yeah. So, Vishia, let's get back to your topic here about the dopamine regulation and addiction here.
Yeah.
The first question I ask is how do people know they're off balance and then the causes of the off balance?
Mm-hmm.
The next question I want to ask here is if people know they're off balance, what should they do?
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting question, right, Joseph? So there is
Mm,
so many factors that can be affecting your quality of life, right? Dopamine regulation is one of the factors, right? So if a person is finding that they are not able to do mundane activities, like they cannot, then they don't feel like, this is a very common thing I hear people saying, they don't feel like doing the dishes or cooking food, or after a long day of work they don't feel like doing things, right? um, so there can be multiple factors that are affecting what they're going through, right? Dopamine regulation is one of the factors that we look at,
mm,
right? So if it is dopamine dysregulation that we are working with, right, it can be because of sleep, it can be because of trauma as well. So unprocessed trauma, right? When I say unprocessed, what I mean is you suppress what has happened and you don't allow yourself to feel those emotions and move forward, right? So unprocessed trauma can also show up as dysregulation. It mimics,
mm,
it's all very similar. It mimics the same way, the
mm,
symptoms, right?
mm,
Substance use. Substance use is a very big thing that comes with
mm,
dopamine regulation. With substance
mm,
use, it can be caused because of trauma, right? It can be caused, when I say caused, what I mean is because of trauma, you get into substance use to cope,
mm,
right? So once you start doing that to escape, once you start doing that, the dopamine that you get from substance is too high and nothing else
mm.
matches it. So you go into the loop
Okay.
of addiction, and that is a classic case of dopamine dysregulation.
Okay. Yeah. To follow up this question here, which you mentioned about when people are off balance, they can be many things, and dopamine regulation is one of the many, many factors.
Hmm.
And if we do identify dopamine regulation is the key culprit,
Right.
and then we work on it here. I guess let's talk about the pleasure side here because the unhealthy pleasure
Yeah.
and the healthy pleasure. The unhealthy one is the short spikes, doom
Yes.
scrolling, addiction, ice cream, or anything like that.
Yeah.
What are some of the healthier pleasure activities they
Yeah.
can try to rebalance themselves in that quadrant?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm glad you asked me this question because what happens in our fast-paced life right now, right? So we are like hustling and completing work, and then maybe we're playing video games. So there's so much stimulation that's happening in our brain that we are not slowing down. We are like fast. We are just get go, right? We're just going for it. Um, so healthy dopamine regulation looks like slowing down
Mm,
and smelling the flowers, getting the pleasure from that,
mm,
right? Watching a sunset and feeling happy. So
mm,
that's more like your dopamine is regulated. So so what I'm trying to say is when you are able to complete your task, right? You're able to do a long days of work and you feel satisfied about it. You have projects that you want to complete and you're putting yourself out there.
okay, yeah.
You're giving yourself difficult tasks to complete. For example, a person who is not very confident in public speaking, you go in front of a group and you speak. That gives you
Mm,
a really healthy spike of dopamine because you completed a challenge. right?
Mm,
So that is one, completing challenging tasks and goals for yourself. Second one is exercise, right?
mhm,
So when you do exercise, you're putting pain, it's hard to exercise. You go
mm,
and lift a bunch of weights or you go running. It's something that's uncomfortable,
mm,
right?
mhm,
But um, it does a cascade of things in your brain, like,
mm,
endorphins, which make you feel really good after you go for a run, and dopamine. Dopamine, it's like doing hard things and gaining pleasure from that. That is healthy dopamine. So when you do hard things and you gain pleasure from that, the the mundane things of smelling a flower, watching a sunset is so pleasurable because
mm,
your dopamine is regulated. There is balance,
mm.
right?
Okay,
Another thing, apart from exercise is cold
mm,
exposure, cold water baths.
okay,
Studies have shown that just 5 to 10 minutes, no, sorry, 3 to 5 minutes of cold water exposure, cold water bath of plunges
okay,
increases dopamine up to 250% for next 5 to 6 hours.
okay,
So that's
yeah,
a really, really high amount of dopamine. But that
okay,
is nothing compared to what you get from a substance, actually.
mhm, okay, okay,
Right? So, what I'm trying to say is when you are in the cycle of addiction, of unhealthy pleasure,
yeah,
right?
mhm,
To do hard things and do the healthy dopamine regulation can be hard at first because you don't get pleasure from that. You get pleasure
mm,
only from the unhealthy ones. So, it's a
okay,
process of quitting and maintaining your lifestyle and slowly coming into the quadrant where it's healthy,
mm,
right? So, to summarize, so exercise, right? Exercise, completing challenging goals for yourself, right?
mhm,
Sleeping, nutrition, that also helps with dopamine. Um, so, this is not like, it gives you pleasure. I'm just saying that it helps, right?
mhm.
Exercise and completing challenging tasks will give you pleasure, healthy pleasure, and cold exposure. So these are some of the healthy things that you can do for healthy pleasure.
It's great here. I wish that when you're talking about the matrix, the
Mm-hmm,
pain and pleasure, healthy and unhealthy, it
mm-hmm.
looks like to kind of regulate this dopamine, you need both the healthy pleasure activities,
Yeah.
like slowing down, smelling the flowers, watching sunset. You also need some healthy pain activities,
Uh-huh. Yes.
like exercise, completing some goals and activity accomplishment.
Yes.
Both. You
Yes.
need both pain and pleasure, healthy ways to do it.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, that sounds like it, right? You do it for yourself. You do the healthy
Yes.
pain on yourself so that you get the healthy pleasure out of it. Otherwise, you just crave for the constant pleasure activities, and your brain is doing the pain for you, giving you more anxiety, more depression, more stress. And something interesting that I read was, Joseph, if you don't give your brain challenging tasks to complete, it will make your existing tasks challenging,
Mm,
right?
I
So
see.
your brain wants to do challenging tasks, right? If you
Mm,
don't give it anything challenging to do, your mundane task becomes challenging.
mm.
That's so interesting, right?
Which here, when you're talking about this aligns with some of the clinical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
For example, let's say when people retire,
Mm-hmm.
they're thinking about, I don't have to do anything anymore. That's great.
Mm,
And then make it so hard to adjust after retirement to
mm,
even day-to-day activities. The
mm,
other example is for people who are off work
mm-hmm.
because of injuries, work conflict. At the beginning, they are resting, but after that, they go into a slump.
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
harder to go back to work because their skills just erode.
Ah. Yeah. That is like an example of what we spoke about, right? With brain giving you challenges to complete, right?
Yes,
It
yeah,
becomes harder
yeah,
and harder when you don't do the hard things.
yes, yeah. Wow. So we share. So we talk about being aware of the off balance. What
Hmm.
is the off balance? The causes of the off
Hmm.
balance. We
Hmm.
talk about how to regulate it with the healthy pleasure and
Hmm.
healthy pain,
Hmm.
also the lifestyle.
Right.
Now, let's tell a little bit about when you are in your psychotherapy,
Mm.
how's the application of these dopamine regulation, this matrix with your clients, and what are the feedback so far?
Okay. So, like we spoke about in our supervision, right, Joseph, scheduling and finding out what the client does hour to hour makes a gives you a really good insight into how they operate in their day-to-day life,
Yes, yeah. The
right?
details
Sched-
matters.
Yes, exactly. Like you mentioned, right? The scheduling, finding out what they do when they wake up, everything matters in how you exist day to day, right? So
Mm,
finding out details about their activities and, finding out, where they can be some kind of tweaking that can be done, even just, 1 hour off the phone is great before bedtime, right? It
yes.
helps you sleep better, right? And
Mm,
waking up at the right time, not right time, same time every day, it helps
mm,
you maintain your circadian rhythm for dopamine, right? So with
mm,
clients, what happens is, Joseph, first we find out what are the key issues that they're facing, right?
mm,
Suppose the client comes in saying that I have an insomnia, right? We do a lot of digging into finding out their lifestyle, right? So I had a client who did come for insomnia, and I found out that he was playing video games just before bed, and he was doom scrolling whenever he found time, and he was mentally exhausted but physically not exhausted. That was his insomnia. His insomnia was showing in a way that he was awake at night ruminating about things. And that is when I learned about the research that dopamine dysregulation contributes to rumination, trying to
mm,
solve problems so that you get some spike of dopamine, right?
mm,
So just finding out about these habits that clients have can give us more insight about what is going on with them. But like I said,
mm,
not everything is about dopamine addiction. There are so
mm,
many factors that can be playing here, like trauma,
mm,
like neurodivergence that has been diagnosed, right?
mm,
Well, I say this because many of the dysregulation with dopamine mimics neurodivergence, but then if you're diagnosed, there is a high chance that it's since birth, right? So it's like a proper diagnosis,
mm,
right? So all these factors matter. And when I find out it is primarily dopamine dysregulation, we try to work on maintenance of everyday
mm,
life, like with sleep, with nutrition, with exercise, right?
mm,
And there are so many skills that you can use to help yourself with emotional regulation that can happen due to dopamine. Dialectical behavioral therapy is one of the main things that I use for
mm,
skills related to emotional regulation and
mm,
just maintenance skills, like with taking care of your body, taking care of your mind with mindfulness,
mm,
right? And research has also shown that mindfulness activities like meditation or yoga, right, that
mm.
also helps with maintaining healthy dopamine levels.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so
The
we can put
healthy
that.
dopamine. Okay.
Yeah, so we can put that into the matrix with the healthy pleasure. So
Okay.
meditation is one of them. You can get
Meditation is
healthy.
one of them. Okay. Yeah. And the unhealthy pleasure or the dopamine killing activities is rumination, video games, doom scrolling, substance use.
Yes,
Yeah.
binge eating.
Yeah.
Um,
Binge eating.
yeah. Yeah, these are the ones.
Yeah. So in here, which what drawn you into your interests in brain chemistry, addictions, and this topic?
Yeah. So I had personal experience with, how my dopamine was dysregulated. So I didn't feel like doing, like I mentioned, right? You don't feel like doing things. You don't feel like there's so many there's so many things that can make neurodivergent. So I was in a state where, oh, maybe I have ADHD or ADHD, right? So when I
Yes.
did research about dopamine and how it affects, I firsthand understood that sleep, nutrition, exercise, all of these factors were affecting how I was living my day-to-day life. So I can give you first-hand evidence that these maintaining your lifestyle works, and that can help you maintain your dopamine levels and help you with so many things, with motivation, with pleasure. So my way of taking care of my activities with pleasure is reading a book. Right, reading a book helps with dopamine regulation as well. It's not as bad as watching TV, right? So so I firsthand have these experiences, and that is why I'm so passionate about spreading the knowledge that I found out about this, because if it's helped me, it can definitely help so many people.
When we share, you share about your personal experience,
Mhm.
and in a way, your personal experience is also a societal experience,
Mm.
especially nowadays, living in a city, and a lot of companies, social media companies are always competing our attention
Mm.
to have that very unhealthy dopamine activities,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
the phone, the social media, and all that. In a way, a lot of people may not aware of that in the background. A lot of things are already eroding this dopamine without
Yes.
knowing this concept.
Exactly, exactly. And that is why it is so important to talk about this, right? To spread the knowledge that you gain through your experiences,
Yeah.
to help others is, I think, the highest form of what you can do with your pain, right? You're just using your pain to help others by overcoming it and showing the way,
And
essentially.
also, let's share the other thing here is, of course, we talk about substance use,
Hmm.
and the other thing, which is the short spike in dopamine, is shopping.
Oh, yes.
Same day shipping in Amazon or companies,
Oh, yes. Oh,
compared
yes.
to in the past, sometimes the delivery takes 1 month, and nowadays we are
Yeah.
very impatient for 1 day.
Exactly, exactly. I forgot to mention about impulse, impulsivity, impulse buying, instant gratification. All these are like disturbing our, process of getting things in their own time, right? Yeah, shopping is a very good example that I forgot to talk about. Yeah.
In a way, our society has a lot of things which is unhealthy for dopamine in the background.
Exactly, exactly, Joseph. That is why I'm so passionate about this. I try to talk about this with my clients on a regular basis because I feel everybody should know this knowledge. Yeah.
So it's a great concept in counseling psychology,
Mm-hmm.
in consultation, and also, as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, for public education, for especially the young children, young teenagers, young adults to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When your brain is just developing, it's not even completely formed. You are
Yes.
introducing social media, you're introducing substances. With the legalization of cannabis here in Canada, it is so hard to, undo the damage that it's doing to young brains. It's really sad, actually.
Especially for a lot of parents, they are busy working,
Mm,
so they might just stick an iPad to the kid,
mm,
and without the school education,
mm-hmm.
the young people will be practicing this unhealthy dopamine-seeking behavior for decades
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah.
before even seeking help or knowing. Yeah.
Exactly. And there is research that shows that giving a child, a toddler, the iPad or, stimulating TV shows that can cause autistic behaviors in children. And
Yeah.
it is so sad because um, even when diagnosing, we have to take these points into consideration.
Yeah, and we share this concept also linked to relationships building.
Mm-hmm.
Because for people who are used to their short-term dopamine seeking,
Mm-hmm.
they will be rushing in relationships
Mm.
and committing prematurely, causing future problems,
Yeah.
moving in before they are ready.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And with how fast our society, like you mentioned, with shopping, with so many things, everything is so fast. I would imagine that relationship is also like going at a very fast speed. Um, and since we're talking about dopamine, I would just talk about, it is because of dopamine. We have to be aware of this and how it's affecting our day-to-day life. Our instant gratification is coming from that.
Yeah. We are living in a very fast society here, and unfortunately, today we also very fast to the end right now.
Okay.
And we share, and if any of the viewers, fellow clinicians, consultants want to contact you about more information, how do they contact you?
I will have my Gmail address linked with this video, which is
Okay.
therapy with Vishrutha at gmail.com. And I have my own YouTube channel as well, which I will give the link with this podcast. So you can just email me or send me a comment.
Okay, thank you, Wisha. And we have to talk about these in the next time to make it a series to educate more people.
Okay, yeah, sounds good, Joseph. I would love to do that. Yeah.
So thank you so much today. I wish I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for this opportunity. Yeah. Okay, bye bye.
Bye.